Then we have Breaking Bridget.
This is a real story.
The Department of Homeland Security and the FBI were colluding with tech companies to deprive U.S. citizens of their right to free speech.
This story should have been a national huge story. Lee Fang and Ken Klippenstein are the journalists at The Intercept who broke this story. And Lee went on Tucker, which is like shocking to me that this is the only person who had Lee on to talk about it. And also he went on Democracy Now! But this should be like everywhere. This is the stuff that's terrifying to me. The work, much of which remains unknown to the American public, came into clearer view earlier this year when DHS announced a new Disinformation Governance Board, a panel designed to police misinformation, false information spread unintentionally, disinformation, false information spread intentionally, and malinformation, factual information shared, typically out of context with harmful intent, that allegedly threatens U.S. interests. So this Disinformation Governance Board was widely ridiculed, immediately scaled back, and then shut down within a few months. But then they pivoted to these other initiatives and to monitoring social media. Now that its original mandate, the war on terror, has been wound down. This is from the Intercept article, which we will put in the description. This started back in 2017 with all of the Russia disinformation and Russia trying to affect our elections. What's really chilling is that they plan to expand censorship on topics like withdrawal from Afghanistan or origins of COVID, efficacy of the COVID vaccine, racial justice, the nature of the U.S. support to Ukraine, and info that undermines trust in financial institutions. And there's no real clear way to define what the false information is or even what gets priority. Anything basically that goes against the official United States narrative could be determined as disinformation.
Right. We don't like that. It's misinformation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We don't like that you're maybe questioning Pfizer about the vaccine. So disinformation. And what's so crazy is how much support this has from people who are even journalists. I'm like, you guys are supposed to be the people that take all of these institutions to task. Pharmaceutical companies, government. You're supposed to be skeptical. You're not supposed to just be shoveling all this shit. And they make it sound like it's this innocent thing, like, oh, Facebook just put a little suggestion box out for the government to drop their little suggestions in on their way out. No, this is how we saw this happen with the Hunter Biden laptop story, which was roundly suppressed right before a major election and then came out as true. Like, this is bananas. You shouldn't be able to do that with information. And it's definitely, even the ACLU, which has been a hot pile of garbage lately and seems to have completely abandoned their entire premise in the past couple of years. Even the ACLU came out, and they're a parody now, but they came out saying the First Amendment bars the government from deciding for us what is true or false online or anywhere. Our government can't use private pressure to get around our constitutional rights. The government pressuring private companies to do their bidding is literally fascism. This kind of collusion is the stuff that we don't want to happen in our country. And it definitely erodes at our ability to have any kind of sense of free speech. The undermining trust in financial institutions, what the does that mean?
Why should we trust our financial institutions after the 2008 meltdown? Like,
how many of them have been sued too?
Yeah.
Wells Fargo? Like, how many times have these companies been sued? Pfizer has the biggest fine ever to anybody of all the pharmaceutical companies. Why should we trust these institutions at face value at all? And starting with the government of the United States, which lied to get us into a freaking war. Like,
It's like welcome to China.
No, it's This is Orwellian. This is.
And I don't understand these journalists who are support it and don't understand how it can be used against them in the future. Like, they just seem to be like, oh yeah, well, they're on the right team, so yay.
The most fucked up thing is that, I mean, there's a lot of of things in this article. I encourage everybody to read it and go to Thanksgiving and get drunk and start spouting off about it. Be the crazy uncle at the Thanksgiving telling everybody about this story because everybody needs to hear it. The DHS official working on disinfo noted during an internal strategy discussion that the agency should use third-party nonprofits as a clearinghouse for information to avoid the appearance of government propaganda. So you're using NGOs to basically wash all of this information so it doesn't look like government propaganda, even though it is government propaganda. That's exactly what this is.
And that level of like conspiracy.
Mm-hmm. And you wonder why people are conspiracy theorists. Because you are actually doing what conspiracy theorists say you're doing, which is trying to hide all of these things that the government is doing behind nonprofits. Ugh. It's, infuriating. This should be a major story that just does not leave the news cycles. And did you see it on CNN? No. MSNBC? A bunch of lunatics? No. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Why is it us, not a news show, who is covering this story?
No, it's nuts. They did great reporting on this. This is what investigative journalists are doing. Good for The Intercept for covering this. It is important. There's so much distrust in our institutions, and obviously there's so many conspiracy theories that fly around that aren't true. But how are you supposed to, like, this doesn't do anything to encourage trust if you know that the government can just put pressure on these huge social media systems as to what speech is allowed and what speech isn't. That is a violation of our First Amendment rights. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
It should be a huge scandal.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Be the crazy uncle at Thanksgiving or aunt or person.